Ugh. Hi everyone, Chocolate and Raisins here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it is time for a review of the new Quelle, Chris, and Chris Keys album, Innocent Country 2. This is a new collaboration album between Chris Keys, California producer, and Quelle Chris, Detroit rapper. This, of course, is not the first time they have crossed paths creatively, as back in 2015 they released Innocent Country, the first one, which in my view is one of the odder projects in Chris's ever-growing discography, which is saying something because Chris isn't exactly your average MC. He has a uniquely congested tone of voice, very laid-back delivery, lyrics that deal mostly in social commentary, introspection, absurd humor, and he'll often go into an album with a loose focus on the topics at hand or the instrumental aesthetics of the record, how those all work together. Maybe not so closely it becomes a concept, but just enough to where each one of his albums has a distinctly different personality. Quelle has also been, in my opinion, on a creative streak as of late, putting out some of his best and most well-received material to date. Guns, Being You is great, also Everything is Fine, the collaboration he dropped with his significant other, the criminally underrated Jean Grey. But given that Innocent Country 2 is an unexpected sequel to an album in the Quelle Chris discography, maybe we're not in for a change of pace here. Maybe we are going to hear something that is just like that original record. It is a sequel after all. No, not the case. Wrong, 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 wrong. Like I said earlier in the review, Innocent Country, the original one, is one of the more left field records in Chris's catalog, with all of these warped backdrops of soul and jazz supporting this short series of sometimes cartoonish, surreal, impressionistic songs. But in many ways, Innocent Country 2 is vastly different. For one, I think Innocent Country 2 is of a slightly higher fidelity. The instrumentals sound a lot richer, especially those jazz pianos. The attitude on this record is a lot more dejected too. And with that, it's worth noting that Innocent Country 2 is also a much more self-serious project. Quelle's sharp sense of humor does show up at some key points here, especially on the intro montage of clips that are supposed to, I guess, catch up the audience on Innocent Country so far, though it's just like a weird series of hilarious snippets. But generally speaking, Innocent Country 2 isn't nearly as weird or as funny as Quelle's records tend to be. There is also quite a bit more singing on this record, especially from Chris, who, given his rap voice, you might assume is a terrible singer, but his vocals actually aren't too bad. They do appeal in a certain weirdo soul type of way, especially on tracks like Black Twitter, as well as Sudden Death. Innocent Country 2, in my view, might be a little long and difficult to sum up topically, but still, this is Quelle at his most somber as well as mellow. Sometimes those dour feelings lead to some powerful moments, and other times not quite as much. Like when Quelle's verse comes up short toward the end of Sacred Safe, where his vocals aren't really holding that strong of a tune, nor are his lyrics as interesting or as multi-layered as his features before him. Plus, the jazz instrumental on this one feels like something Flying Lotus or Madlib would do if they were trying to play it as straight and as bland as possible. I mean, the pianos are great, but there's not really much else about the beat texturally that is gripping. There are also points on the LP where the features don't really stun all that much either, like with Pink Sifu on Grease from the Elbows, where I think he plays it a bit more understated than he needed to. There's also Make It Better featuring Star Busby, who, from the looks of it, looks like a very trained and seasoned singer. But she spends a good deal of her feature pulling off these very weak neo-soul riffs that sound like Erykah Badu on not her best day. There's the kind of meandering horizon, which I think drags on a bit as well. It feels like a track from one of Chris's older records, but not with nearly as much eccentricity or instrumental flavor to compensate for how redundant and low structure the song is. These are my least favorite moments on this record by far, but thankfully they're not all that bad, and there is a hefty heap of highlights throughout the rest of the album. We have the sad and captivating Honest, which is loaded with these glamorous and depressing pianos. Warm bass, it's not too much unlike a lot of the jazzier cuts off Guns, and this instrumental serves as a great foundation for Chris to deliver one heartbroken verse after another as he details this romance that just went awry. The bitterness, the betrayal, the mind games, the manipulation. It's poetic, it's thoughtful, and it finishes with a funny phone message at the end, too. We also have the equally classy and luscious Living Happy, which is tagged with these thick and beautiful vocal harmonies, along with these refrains that are mentioning in succession all of these old dances, as lyrically Quelle begins to go down memory lane, talking about what his life used to be. And speaking of throwing it back, Bottle Black Power by The Business, instrumentally and vocally, sounds like something off of Chris's Ghost at the Finish Line record. Maybe it's him playing up his nasal voice, or the funny overdubbed flows on the hook, or even how quirky and eerie the beat sounds. Sure, it is one of the funnier sounding tracks on the LP, but still it works as an excellent piece of social commentary on those who may want to profit off of pro-black politics, which is one of a few Afrocentric moments on the LP, especially the family-focused ritual where Chris makes room on the record to tribute some of his loved ones. Let me also make note of the incredible tracks that finish up the back end of this thing. Graphic bleed outs. The beat on this thing is so gorgeous, I wanna fucking cry. God damn. The keys are so wonderful. The harmonies, they are lovely. And the sound of this beat seems to inspire Chris quite a bit as well. His voice is the most animated it is on the entire LP. His delivery even borders on theatrical at some points, which is surprising given how low-key he typically plays it. And he treats us to some of the most evocative wordplay and word choice on the entire LP as well. Don't let him sell your soul and stay faithful, loving in grief. Let it out, and if need be, let it be. Don't blow at the whens, wherevers, and whats. Some openings never shut. Once one delivers the cut. With this and a good vocal performance from Meryl Garbus of Tune-Yards fame and some killer flute solos as well, it's one of my favorite songs of the year. We also have Mirage, which is an immense song featuring contributions from Denmark Vesey, Earl Sweatshirt. It is a 7-minute monster with pained group vocals, dreary pianos, a powerful monologue at the finish too. It's got the power of a posse cut, but then also the tenderness of a funeral eulogy. When You Fall is also an awesome moment of finality for the LP, in my opinion. Some decent features there as well. And overall, I felt this was a very good record from Quelle Chris and Chris Keys. Very, 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 very good, in fact. There were a few spots that were either underwhelming or felt just a bit unambitious for Quelle. The album is topically scattered to a slight degree, I felt, but some of Chris's best work does show up on this album. There are a whole lot of features, but a vast majority of them are quite good. And Chris Keys' production is nothing to sneeze at either. Yeah, I do think it's a little too pristine on the first leg of the record, but consistently it is mature, tasteful, with wonderful touches of jazz and soul all over. While this is not my favorite Quelle Chris record, I still see it very much as a part of the current creative winning streak that he is on, feeling a strong 7 to a light 8 on this one. Transition, did you give this album a listen? Did you love it? Did you hate it? What would you rate it? You're the best, you're the best. What should I review next? Hit the like if you like. Please subscribe and please don't cry. Hit the bell as well. Over here next to my head is another video that you can check out. Hit that up or the link to subscribe to the channel. Anthony Fantano, Quelle Chris, Chris Keys, forever.